We recommend listening to the CW pod with a glass of Steeple Ridge Bourbon. Grown, distilled, well-rested, and bottled in Erling, Iowa. Now from the Channel Seed Studios, this is the CW pod, fueled by Steeple Ridge.
Hello, welcome to this week's pod. I'm fired up for this one. I always like getting my buddy Scott Siepker in here. We're going to talk about what it's like to cheer for tortured NFL franchises today. A lot of sulking going to go on here.
Yeah. Scott,
it's fresh enough where he wore his Buffalo Bills hoodie. I had contemplated wearing a Vikings shirt today, but I decided to pass at the end of the day.
Why?
Well, more because I have other stuff to do and like meetings, and it's just
you don't want people to judge you?
No, there's plenty of judging that's already occurred here. Let's be honest. If you had a judgment to make about me, you've made it.
You know, that's really good perspective, Chris.
Yeah, like to quote the great American prophet Eminem, one Marshall Mathers, I am whatever you say I am. And if I wasn't, then why would I say I am?
Wow, that's really deep. I think I just got lost in that circular argument.
We are presented, as always, by our friends at Steeple Ridge Bourbon. This is the cask strength, if you're watching on our YouTube feed, the single barrel Iowa Everywhere Select.
Ooh.
Scott, I'll be giving you this bottle for coming on today's podcast.
That's really kind of
you.
You
ever had a Steeple Ridge Bourbon?
I have not.
It's phenomenal. You'll love it.
Well,
you really will love it. And it's got you may not even want to open it because it's the Iowa Everywhere commemorative.
I definitely want to open it.
Yeah, drink the whiskey. Good move. We're going to talk about that Vikings, Bills. I also want to talk about how conflicted I am with the Lions because it's like, do I really want them to do it first? That type of a deal. I also just wanted to hit on this to start, and I didn't tell you we were going to talk about this.
That's
but
fine.
There was news today that I thought was fascinating. People know I'm a sports business geek. Did you see the WWE Netflix news today?
I did not.
This is breaking news as of this morning. And I'm always telling sports fans, get ready. Like the reason that NFL game was on Peacock, they could have gotten more viewers had it been on NBC. They know what they're doing. They're trying to show these digital-only companies, look, you can still get huge numbers here. They are absolutely setting this thing up for the next 10 years. And today, WWE, which I understand is not a real sport. I get it.
Sports entertainment.
It is still a sports property in the eyes.
And it is owned by the same company that owns the UFC. So
Correct.
They know what they're doing.
They got a $5 billion deal to take Monday Night Raw to Netflix.
$5 billion?
$5 billion.
Ooh.
If I'm Disney right now, I am fucking terrified. Because Netflix, I need to look at like cash on hand, but they're nothing compared to if Apple or Amazon or these companies want to. If they want, they could just come in and take the NBA. If they wanted to.
And Amazon Prime has already shown that they want to do. Live sports is the only place we're getting actual advertising reaching the audience from a commercial point of view. Like it's really it. That and maybe some reality TV shows, but most people are taping that and then watching it later. Sports, there are some people who are doing that, but most of us watch live and we watch through the commercials.
Correct, and I would also make the point that WWE, because it's not real, right? They often can take risks before the big sports leagues, and we saw them do that with their network. They were the first network to say we're completely going away from linear television.
And they're getting the Saudi money. I mean, that's a big thing. I keep telling that about
truth.
Iowa and Iowa State. Listen, if you guys are out there watching, get Saudi money. Like, I don't know what you need to do, but sometime Saudi Arabia...
Go find the crown prince.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, those places that want to do some sports washing, as the term is being thrown around, college football is wide open. Nobody's gotten in.
Could you imagine the crown prince of Saudi Arabia walking around Melrose Avenue on a Saturday?
I can, actually.
No, I'm just
He's not drinking any alcohol. I'll tell you that.
Listen, guys, I've been on this horse back in my KXNO days. This news today was huge, though. If you understand TV rights, the fact that a property as big as WWE's Monday Night Show is one of the most valuable properties in the entire world because it runs every week, and they have a huge fan base that, like, it in college football, we think 4 million viewers is like a great number. Okay, like that's a really great number that only a few teams can consistently hit on a weekly basis. I mean, WWE hits 2-3 million every Monday and Friday night. And it doesn't matter what the program is. It doesn't matter who's there because they have that loyal of a fan base. The fact that they are confident in taking this streaming only is just a massive deal as to what's to come. And that also tells me it's like if I'm Netflix, I'm probably not stopping there.
No, and it's right now, it used to be that you're really almost solely focused from a network point of view of casting the widest net so you could get the most people. Now, with the way that our society has been siloed and our entertainment options have been siloed, it's not necessarily about the quantity, it's about the depth and quality of those viewers. Maybe WWE isn't the most popular thing ever, but those 2 to 3 million people who watch every week watch every week, right? And
Absolutely.
So that value, that nichiness is what these platforms are looking for.
They're sticky, and it's a lot like NASCAR. Like a NASCAR viewer is probably more valuable than one NBA viewer because they're going to, if Steeple Ridge Bourbon sponsored a car of your favorite,
they're much more loyal.
Yes, they're going to go out and buy it. And then if Steeple Ridge Bourbon doesn't sponsor that car next year, they're going to stop buying it and they're going to buy the new whiskey that's on the car. So I had to talk about that, and I'll probably do something deeper on it at some point. But I just think that this is the first mega move. We've seen single games. Oh, we're going to put this game on Peacock. We're going to put these Thursday night games that generally aren't great on Amazon. This is a huge deal. This is an absolute one that if you're sitting in Bob Iger's office in Disney this morning and you see this, it's one that will get you a little bit amped up. Because I was reading too that their Disney in their latest stock report was saying that they're trying to make all these deals with the leagues, which they're doing with ESPN, right? Where ESPN is doing with the NFL with, I think, Red Zone next year. ESPN's going to produce Red Zone.
Really?
Yes.
What is it going to still be?
Yes, it's going to, but it's going to like be housed in an ESPN studio, and like they're farming it out to them.
Wow. Okay.
So ESPN's trying to cut deals with these new, with these leagues to try and get. They want like some ownership. They want to give the NBA some ownership in ESPN, right? So they can get some discounts. They're wanting their budget to be like $13 million a year. Netflix just spent $5 billion on professional wrestling. So, like, again, I'm not a doomsdayer. I'm not saying that ESPN is going to cease to exist. All I'm saying is these rights fees aren't going anywhere but up. We thought we were in a bubble. We were all wrong, especially when you look at the subscriptions, and they're not going to stop selling advertising. They're still going to do it.
And one thing I really like them to figure out is how to switch back and forth quickly between apps.
It's so annoying.
Because you can't do it right now.
No.
And
whoever does that's going to be rich.
That's what I'm saying. So listen, whoever you are out there, design that.
Why doesn't Hoodoo do it?
Well, we could if the Big Ten wanted to list on Hoodoo. we're looking for help in this area. Some people could bid. You could bid. You would bid, and maybe you could win.
It is maddening, and like I was with a friend on Saturday night. We got the NFL game on, and we're flipping back and forth. It was the BYU Texas Tech game, so both we were watching on YouTube TV. But then there was another Big 12 game on ESPN Plus. And we all but abandoned it, because it's hard enough to switch within YouTube TV, but then to exit the app, enter the app, just to check the score, exit the app, enter this app.
Yeah, it is one of those things that old satellite, old cable had figured out with the return button or the repeat. Like just go back. You can flip back and forth between one channel instantly.
It's funny because now we're like, wouldn't it be nice if all the games were in one spot? And you could just click. Oh yeah, wait a minute, we had that, and then they gouged us forever, and they.
Well, we gouged ourselves. I mean, ultimately, it's because we have an insatiable sports appetite.
They really though, like if you think about it economically. From a media standpoint, it was like bizarro world back then because let's say your Lifetime, okay, being bundled in with ESPN like that, like it's crazy. Like you're guaranteed, even though ESPN would command top dollar, like, okay, if let's say ESPN's getting $13 and you're the outdoor channel and you were getting $2, but you're part of this basic, you're guaranteed that money. Yeah. It doesn't matter if people are watching or not.
You just hook your wagon up to that, and then you wait for the money to kind of blow off, or you grab a couple here and there,
and now you
actually produce a terrible Lifetime movie that's about...
That are super cheap. Yeah. You know they did it.
Oh, yeah.
We had buddies who were in those things.
Yes, one of them played the Prince William and Harry and Meghan.
This is true. This
is Jordan Whalen,
yeah. Shout out to Jordan, an old acting buddy of ours at Iowa State.
Yeah, you can look him up. Played Prince William.
Wonderful.
Now King... Well, one day will be King William.
Wonderful, wonderful work. Okay, so we are in the Channel Seed Studios as well. Thanks to Channel, they gave me this wonderful Stanley mug. I was a holdout. I was a Yeti guy. And then I was reading about how these like middle school girls are being bullied because they don't have Stanley thermoses.
Or even the right color. You got to have the right color, the Stanley.
Thanks to my friends at Channel Seed, I can no longer be bullied because I don't have a Stanley mug.
I mean, there's just one less thing we can bully you about.
Yeah, there you go. You talk about reinventing yourself. Like we're with the
Stanley.
The Stanley stuff is crazy.
My dad worked at Pellerot Screen for 30 years, right? And so the old factory worker, he had the Stanley thermos, like that bullet-looking thing.
Yep.
And that's what I always think of. And they have really been able. It's incredible the pivot they've been able to make to go to an entire different demographic.
Yeah, and like I was reading yesterday, it was I think the New York Post, like kids across the country being bullied because of this. Could you imagine, like when we were were 12? Oh yeah, I get bullied all the time. Can you imagine when we were 12 though? Hey, you loser! You don't have the right color of a Stanley thermos. Like it's freaking crazy.
I got bullied. No joke. The way I got bullied when I was 12 was, are the Bills going to lose another Super Bowl?
Great segue.
And they do. They 4 in a row. And I'm not even joking. I'd hide under my covers at home because I didn't want to go.
I'm conflicted with you. So Scott and I both cheer for tortured franchises.
Yeah.
And so Scott has lived through 4 Bills Super Bowls.
Losses.
All losses. I, as a Vikings fan, have never seen my team in a Super Bowl. Now, granted, they're still a tortured franchise
because they've lost 4 Super Bowls. Not in a row, but
we're the only 2, right?
Only 2
that are 0 for 4. And I thought it would be kind of fun today. We have a fun text chain, and I actually on Sunday night felt for you.
Thank you.
And it started. Remember, I sent that nice message.
You did.
I was like, I'm very sorry. And then Hassel comes in and just blows the whole thing up.
He says the Bears have it worse than the Bills,
which is, I think,
ridiculous.
I think what he's saying is that in his lifetime, right? So we're all born around 84. So Hassel doesn't really remember the Super Bowl shuffle. And
still, it happened in his lifetime, 1986.
Yeah.
Right? That's a great team.
So honestly, like I didn't really have much of a rooting interest in the Bills. So this was my thought watching the Bills Chiefs. I thought the Bills would win. In fact, I lost some money because I had the Bills at 2.5. I have so many friends and family that are Chiefs fans that it's hard for me to root against the Chiefs because I don't want them to be upset. That's a bad friend, right? Mm-hmm. That's a bad. But I also, there's this conflicted part of me where I feel like the fans of the tortured franchises kind of need to stick together in a weird. So would you, and we're both this way now, Lions are playing, and they're a real tortured franchise. I mean, they kind of make us look like nothing.
I honestly feel like the Bills have it worse.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think the Bills are worse than the Vikings?
I do. I think I do. I think it's because of the way we lose.
Are you?
The way we lose.
Challenge me.
Okay.
Let's go. Gary Anderson.
Last year, we're playing the Vikings. We're on the 1 yard line. All we have to do is hike the. Yes, but it cost us home field advantage, which then cost us in the playoffs. Okay, that's no small thing. We win that game.
Small thing.
We win that game, and that was utterly, and that was a Justin Jefferson incredible catch.
Craziest Vikings win I've than the miracle.
And you guys won that. Yeah. And you have that. We don't have those. We have the miracle.
Yeah, but we had the miracle just to get kicked in the nuts the next week where you're not even in the game, Scott. At least you had a game to watch.
Music City Miracle happens, okay? That's our miracle, where the other team scores a touchdown by lateraling it on a kickoff, in a kickoff return. And then the Titans have that incredible victory with a backwards or a forward pass that gets ruled as a backwards pass. I digress. They win, and then the Bills don't go to the Super Bowl or don't go to the playoffs for 17 more years, Chris. 17.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think the Lions, they've only been in the playoffs twice.
I know, but what heartbreaking, meaningful, high leverage situations have they been in? They just don't play in high leverage situations.
That's part of the fun, though, and this is where I would challenge you on the Vikings Bills conversation, because at least you look at next year, the Bills are going to be good. You have a quarterback. You've got we're in football hell. We don't ever get draft picks. We've got this old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury who's probably going to want more money than he should. You're fucked. Right? Like the Viking, you look at this division now, the Packers feel like they're going to be good. The Lions aren't going anywhere. The Bears are in the best draft situation that anybody's been in 10, maybe since Herschel Walker. Oh, yeah. Where did that come from? At least you're looking at next year, you're like, oh, yeah, we're a playoff team at least, and we're going to be in these high-end situations.
Here's the thing. The Bills are in a spot. People think that they're going to get better, but the salary cap is a real thing.
Yeah, it is. Which is why we love the NFL and why the NFL is so popular. It always gives you a shot.
Josh's contract jumps from $18 million to $40 million cap hit
next year.
Ooh. We have Von Miller, who can't play anymore.
Yeah, he's done.
Okay,
he's toast.
We have our All-Pro linebacker, who is Matt Milano, who got injured at the very beginning of this year with an injury that's going to carry over. Trey White, our best cornerback, who is an All-Pro, he's injured again, another torn ACL. So the problem is that as the team gets older and your quarterback gets paid more and more, it just cuts more and more. And so I honestly feel like the Bills are going to have a real tough time getting to the AFC because, look, the Chiefs. The Chiefs isn't a good Chiefs team.
No,
they still beat us.
That's the most frustrating part, I think, for you, because when I watch the Chiefs, and that's why I bet pretty heavily on the Bills on Sunday. It's because I'm like, this sets up perfectly. This is Jordan getting the Pistons at home.
Thank you. That's what I thought.
And really, that offense is not good.
No,
that the Chiefs are running.
They just have the greatest player in the world. They
had the best player in our generation. Brady, obviously, but as far as physical tools, he's the best quarterback. Brady was a brilliant man, right? Pre-snap, Peyton Manning was the same way. Yep. Watch it forever. Mahomes is a total freak show. But you look at his supporting cast. You've got an aging Travis Kelce. You've got
Reed. Right. They have one.
You got a 7th round running back from Rutgers, right?
But they're going to get better. I mean, they made some decisions on the offensive line that maybe haven't worked out, but they're going to get better. They're going to draft well, and they're going to get better. And then also on the AFC, Joe Burrow is going to come back. And Justin Herbert's going to get a quarterback. Yeah. So and CJ Stroud looks great.
I think you missed your window?
I think we missed our window with 13 seconds left in the divisional round 2 years ago. When we had the lead, we're up 3 against Kansas City. All we have to do is squib kick it, knock off a couple seconds, stop them from driving the field with 8 or 9 seconds left in the game. We're not able to do that. Patrick Mahomes leads them to a field goal. They score a touchdown in the overtime. Bills never take the ball. I think that was our moment because if the Bills win that game, they probably beat Cincinnati the next week. then they probably beat the Rams at home. Or I'm sorry, beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. The Bills were the best team that year, but because of terrible coaching decisions with 13 seconds left, they're out. And I think that was our moment. And now we're Phillip Rivers. We're Phillip Rivers and the Chargers, who we can't get past Brady. We can't get past Manning. And it's you got a really good quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback, but the timing is just off and you missed your window.
Presented here today by our friends at DRF Sportsbook. I started using this app for the first time.
Also, can we have this be sponsored by a box of Kleenex?
Well, we have the whiskey.
Oh, yeah, we do. Okay.
This DRF Sportsbook, I got it right here, is awesome. Honestly, like I've kind of looked into them, and then we've been having conversations with them, and I started using it last week, and I absolutely fell in love with it. You guys should. They have great promos, all that stuff. Go and download their app today. They're only in the state of Iowa, which is what I like about it. This is the only state that they're operating a sports book in, which is cool. They're the little guy, and I like to beef them up.
Yeah, and you really like to take their money.
They took my money last weekend. They got a lot of money from
Rather
me.
give your money to the small guy than the big guy, right?
Correct. And it was your damn Buffalo Bills that screwed me on that. So how do we view – so we're fans of tortured franchises. We need to have the discussion coming up of – well, I don't even want to say it. We'll get there in a minute. Are you rooting – I'm rooting for Brock Purdy and the 49ers. It's very easy for me to adopt them as my second favorite team now for obvious reasons. But as a tortured franchise guy to another, like would you be happy for Lions fans if they would make it? Or would it be like, God damn it? Like, how are they there?
I would feel so happy for Detroit.
Okay, yeah.
I feel
that's
like
kind of how I've been feeling with them, too. And I shouldn't like them. They're in my division. But
Detroit has had a hard time. It's a rough city ever since, obviously, we moved a lot of our factory jobs overseas. Detroit got hit really hard. And Detroit is one of the top 5 most important cultural cities in America. I mean, if you think about all that Detroit has contributed to our society.
Kind of total opposite San Francisco versus Detroit from a cultural standpoint.
You're right. It's very different parts of the country.
Silicon Valley versus...
Yeah. And Motown. I mean, just the thing, and automobile culture. I mean, Detroit is a historic city, a very important historic. So is San Francisco, but it's just different. And I feel a kinship with Detroit because it's a Midwest city, and it's been so bad there with their football team for so long.
Well, it's similar to Buffalo.
Yes, both are teams are cities that have been just rampaged by jobs moving elsewhere.
And it's also like if you put a list of like places where you never want to go,
especially in the winter.
Yeah, like those cities both throw Cleveland in there. Those 3 kind of get tossed around quite a bit. Like, why the hell would I want to go to Buffalo?
You probably don't.
I remember every year when the NCAA tournament, when the sites come out, I'm like, oh, Jesus, hopefully I don't go to Buffalo. Because I'll get snowed in.
About the Lions. I mean, I would be happy for
I'm rooting for Purdy, obviously. But I was really pulling for Detroit the last 2 weekends. I had these annoying twins who went to high school with me who were Lions fans, and they thought Barry Sanders was God, and but you can't lump in a large group of people with 2 annoying people that I was rooting for them because I feel like, so I think you and me have a real debate here. I think that the Vikings are a much more tortured franchise than the Bills. But I think the Lions have us all beat.
No,
to not even taste it, like to not even have the hope.
Listen, I went 17 years without tasting the playoffs, all right? And then we finally get back in, and Deshaun Watson goes crazy.
You've watched your team in the big game 4 times.
You've
had 4 Super Bowl Sundays where you woke up with hope.
And yes, with hope. And then you know what it turns into? A nightmare. A nightmare not just for that day, but for the rest of my life. I'm serious. I give keynote addresses all over the Midwest. I will bring up being a Buffalo Bills fan. The crowd will laugh. All I have to say is I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. They will laugh. Why is that? It's because the pain of those 4 Super Bowl losses, specifically the Scott Norwood loss, echoes through the decades. And now we go 17 years where we're never on regular TV, and I can't afford to have Sunday ticket. And I finally get to the point in my life where I can afford to have Sunday ticket, and the Bills are good enough to be on national TV all the time, just in case, so that I can watch them lose in some heartbreaking fashion. It's just, I don't know. And I want to just frame this. I know that I'm being very emotional, and this is just sports talk.
Yeah.
So this is...
I think our audience understands that.
I have been... When's the last time you were sick about a loss by the Vikings? I mean, last night...
Yeah.
I was having a...
Well, that's why I actually kind of felt bad about our text chain, because...
Well, when you're in a hassle text chain, you just...
Again, though, like, I genuinely... Me and Andy sent really heartfelt, like...
You did.
Hey, I'm really sorry, Scott. That sucks. And then Hassel's like, fuck you, Scott.
Yeah, and he's like, the Bears haven't worked. There's no way.
I mean, the one that really still to this day brings to me is 98, Gary Anderson. Like, I was 14, though, so I didn't have great perspective, but I bawled like a baby.
Oh,
I was sobbing uncontrollably at that.
And think about...
we were the best team that year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was your moment. You guys should have won.
Dirty Bird. Like, they got killed by the Broncos. That would have been a great Super Bowl, by the way. Elway versus Cunningham and that Vikings off. Think about that. The Vikings had Robert Smith, iconic running back in the day. He was one of the first really, could do 3 different things. He could block, he could receive, he could run. One of the fastest running backs in the league. Jake Reed, Chris Carter, and Randy Moss. You're throwing to all 3 of those guys with a Hall of Famer and Randall Cunningham.
I'm not saying that you guys haven't had, that the Vikings
Tony
haven't had.
Dungy's your defensive coordinator.
You guys have had awful, awful heartbreaks. I'm not trying to say that you haven't. I'm just saying the quantity of that heartbreak does not compare to the Bills' quantity of heartbreak.
Now, the debate comes back to is you've seen your team play in the Super Bowl 4 times. I have not.
And what? And what did they do each of those times?
In my 3 NFC championship games, okay? 1, Gary Anderson. 2, they got beat like 49-0 by the Giants. And 3, that year where all those Eagles fans, this was the miracle year, where they were harassing Grandma Millie, where they were making all those disgusting comments towards Grandma Millie. And we were never even in the game, Scott. We were never in the game. I had purple beer at my house. Purple. We made the beer purple. Never even in the... I didn't watch the 4th quarter. You know what? I was so drunk, I started watching Old School.
I haven't seen that. I should try to see it.
You really haven't?
No.
It's our generation's Animal House.
I've seen Animal House is not a good movie.
What was that, Aiden?
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Old School? I would agree.
Animal House also very, very
good. I've said I think Old School is my favorite comedy of all time.
All right, that's fair. You know what my favorite comedy of all time is? Watching the Bills try and win a playoff game against the Chiefs. It's hilarious.
So here's the conversation I want to take to is another Hassel quote. And I think there's something to this, but I want to discuss it. Because I've said this before. Ross and I used to talk about this all the time on Cakes and O, that if the Vikings would ever win a Super Bowl, I might just hang it up. I might just hang it up and be like the George Costanza, go out on a high note. I'm out.
Yep.
I'm out.
I've been thinking the same thing, Chris, because right now what has happened, I'm a pretty rational guy, and I'm not too emotional, but I'm irrationally emotional about the Bills, and it's because it's growing up and getting made fun of, and it just becomes part of your identity, and you can decide when you're a little kid which you take it.
The Bills losing Super Bowls is part of like the 90s culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The joke about how many kids in Africa are wearing Super Bowl champion Bills shirts.
Did you read Klosterman's book, The 90s?
No.
I mean, it's...
No, don't even tell me.
No, it's like a big chapter in that. Is the losing... Like in the sports era, the Buffalo Bills are a huge chapter.
And we go to 4 Super Bowls.
You had a 30 for 30.
Yeah, 4 Falls of Buffalo. My childhood hero, Jim Kelly. He's sad by losing. Like it's gone beyond for me just like my feelings about it. Like I want to win a Bills Super Bowl as much as it's a top 10 wish item for me. Okay. And I just don't, it's hard to continually watch everything fall apart and know that the way I'm feeling, as bad as I feel, the players feel way worse. The coaches feel way worse. The bar owners around there feel way worse. Tyler Bass. How bad does Tyler Bass feel right now?
That son of a bitch.
I hate that.
Yeah. Well, I would actually push back sometimes. One of the things that I've picked up on over the years in my sports media career is that oftentimes the fans care more. And that I don't think that's I think the trick is you don't want the fans to know that because they want to think that this Tyler Bass, hurts worse or as much as you. But I would be curious to know, like, Dalvin Cook is a great example, right? Has this great career for the Vikings for like 4 years, and then he just gets exiled. Just kick him to the curb.
Might win a Super Bowl with the Ravens.
I hope he does for his sake, whatever. But like a guy like that, or name a random Bills play, like AJ Klein's a great example. Iowa State guy.
Spencer Brown.
He's been cut by the Bills how many times?
And then he knows it off.
I would argue that you care about the Bills considerably more than he does.
I don't.
I'm not saying he wasn't sad that he lost. I'm saying about that franchise, you're way more invested than most of these players are.
Well,
by the way, I'm not talking about college either. Yeah. We're talking about. I can see. Don't say about college kids. No, we're talking about that. It's a business. For you, it's a lifestyle. It's part of.
It's part of my identity.
If you die tomorrow, we're all going to come together and put something Bills at your funeral, right?
What a great thought to think about.
I'm just thinking about it.
Well, you're talking about maybe
presented
stepping
as
away.
Always by Steeple Ridge Bourbon.
There you go. Because right now, this is how I watch Bills games, and it's not fun. I watch Bills games like this. And I'm not joking. I'm in the fetal position. I'm like, and if the Bills ever win a Super Bowl, what I have told myself I'm going to do is I'm going to stop watching games like this, and I'm going to watch games like this because they won.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I let it go.
Will not be as.
I don't know, man, but I got to try something else because this is awful.
Here's how I watch Vikings games. I've lost hope. I know that they're gonna win anywhere from 7 to 11 games every year, probably. Unless this year, riddled by injuries, I give them a pass. Okay, but they're not going to do the big show. The problem when you go
you're
10 and 8
quarterback
every
away.
year,
That's
9
all
and
you
9.
are.
No, we're not. What are you watching?
A good
do you
quarterback.
Even watch football?
Listen, you have a good coach.
Yes, I like O'Connell. I like him a lot. We're in football hell, though. When you're picking in the middle rounds every stinking year,
you can do it. You can find it. I mean, most of
they can win with Cousins. They just can't pay him that much.
I don't know if you can win with Cousins, but he can get you the playoffs.
If Cousins is making $20 million as opposed to 40, you can win with him.
Okay.
Like, listen, sorry. Brock Purdy's not that much better than Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is better than Brock Purdy.
I would agree. Why are the 49ers able to do what? Because look at what they spend on a quarterback.
Yep.
Because they got an elite line, they got elite playmakers, an elite defense,
and you got to win in that window when you have that rookie quarterback.
Correct. So the Vikings' problem is that they are spending too much on a quarterback who is good. He is a good quarterback.
Yep.
I don't hate Kirk Cousins.
No, he's above average.
I think he can win a Super Bowl.
But I don't think that.
He's got to have a line. He's got to have a running back. He's got to have receivers, which they do. And he's got to have a defense. And the problem is he's not good enough to overcome making $40 million because it limits the rest of your roster, especially when you're going to have to pay Jefferson, whatever you're going to have to pay him. Right? So they're in football hell. That's my point.
They are. I don't think they are. I mean, I don't think you guys are going to win a Super Bowl, but I don't think the Bills are either. This is the bet I've made to Hassel, and he hasn't taken it. So is that I'm betting Chris Hassel $100 that the Bears win a Super Bowl for the Bills, and every year that neither team wins, we add $100 to the pot.
All right, our lives have kind of been paralleled for a long time. Okay.
Yes.
Going back to college. Well, even going back to high school, Hawkeye 10 country. Like
Carroll is way better than whatever
we
podunk
grew
town
up
you're from.
and then we go to college together, and then we were kind of doing this media thing together. Whatever. We've been in the line for a long time. Do you think when we die, let's say we die at 85.
Okay.
Do you think either of us will have a Super Bowl?
No.
I don't either. I think we're toast.
And I think the Bears actually have a better chance than the Vikings and the Bills.
Absolutely they do. No, I think that we're both going to die.
The Lions will probably have a Super Bowl, and we won't.
Because they're going to at some point suck again, and they'll get all these draft picks.
They might win the Super Bowl this year.
I'm prepared to die beside you without a Super Bowl.
I love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
I wish it wasn't true, and I'm really rooting for it against. Can we just for a moment? Can we just strip it all away, and can we just talk about how sad we get or angry we get? This is a totally irrational, ridiculous conversation, but how do you process a loss like this? Because this happens so often. You feel like I should have good experience, but
your loss on Sunday is one of the worst. Because, hear me out.
I know, you're right. That's why
I'm thinking back to my NFC Championship game losses. Okay, so 98 was brutal. I think 98's the worst sports feeling I've ever had in my life, other than maybe Aaron Kraft, Ohio State, Sweet 16.
There's no Iowa State moment.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that was Iowa State.
Yeah, right.
They would have. I think they could have gotten to the Final Four that year. That was Niang's freshman year.
Oh, right. Yeah,
that was setting up for them. Yeah.
The Niang injury is hard.
Your deal on Sunday, everything was set up for you perfectly. You guys are playing maybe the best football in the NFL leading into that game. Okay, now the second half against the Steelers I wasn't crazy about, but you had a big lead. The weather was weird. I threw a pass. And you're getting this, basically Kansas City's on crutches coming into this game. They have one of the worst receiving cores.
Are you doing this just to
No, we're just talking
insult injury?
I'm a sports analyst.
Yes, of course.
This is the worst Chiefs team of their 6 AFC championship games in a row. I think we can say.
I agree.
They have, if they would make the Super Bowl with this receiving core, maybe the worst receiving core
since last year.
Yeah,
when they won,
they're beat up. Andy Reid at the tail end. It just feels like this is your time. If you're ever going to do it, this is your time. And you guys fly. Not only did you do it, but you did it in excruciating fashion.
Our quarterback played awesome.
He was great until second down on the final drive of the game when the guy's wide open in the end zone, or you can just dump it off to Steph Diggs and you win the game. You win the game, Scott. Well, you win the game. The worst case, you're going to overtime.
You know that also, but Josh was putting the ball. Think of that Stephon Diggs, like that 70-yard bomb he throws to him, and it hits him in his hands.
Josh was great.
He hits him in the hands. Same thing happened with Trent Sherfield. It's like he had no ball skills at all, and it's frustrating because Josh Allen is on the trajectory to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but the path to getting a Super Bowl is only getting harder.
Yeah, the more you make,
and I just don't see how we can get over that hump. And psychologically, I feel like Bills Mafia, we're just wounded. We're hurt.
You guys are just crazy, man.
And you can feel it in the stadium when the Chiefs start coming back.
So quiet.
And then you just get on edges, and that affects the players. That stuff is real. I think the Bills had probably a better chance last night in that second half if they were playing in Kansas City. Because you can just feel everybody being like their stomachs cringing, and eggshells seem to have fallen through the sky like
did you
snowflakes.
Feel when the fumble through the end zone? I felt like that was a sign that it was your time.
I had already given up on I was doing a man's weekend. I got up. I couldn't watch it. I went to go do dishes.
I thought it was a sign.
And then I saw that and I was like, okay, well maybe
dishes at the man's weekend. That's it.
We didn't have a dishwasher, so and really I was just looking for anything to do.
I thought that was a sign for you guys. I thought
that was a crazy thing. Like, we need luck to beat Kansas City, as we saw with Kadarius Toney and
because they're just better than you.
They are. Well, I'd say Patrick Mahomes is just better. He's
the best player of our generation.
Yes, he might go down as they could win the Super Bowl this year.
Well, because of him.
Because of him.
And he's got, in my opinion, the best offensive coach in NFL history.
And the best tight end of all time.
You think Kelsey's the best tight end of all time?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I do. I mean, who are we going to pick?
Jay Novacek.
Antonio Gates.
Tony Gonzalez.
Rob Gronkowski. I think that Travis Kelce is smarter than all those guys.
You wonder,
football point
you
of
wonder
view.
too if Kelce plays for the Ravens, right? Like what? Just swap out and put another guy.
Yeah, you
with
put
Mahomes.
Mark Andrews on. I mean, obviously he's going to do
with the,
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid with the Chiefs.
I just saying,
yes.
I would also point out the last. We're talking about the quarterback math here, and this is where the Brock Purdy thing gets fascinating. Because at some point they're going to have to, I think it's in 2 years.
Yes.
His contract comes up. And it's really, I'm not going to say easy, but when your quarterback's making under $1 million, your cap space is, they are in football heaven.
Yes.
To have a guy like
the
that.
Texans right now, the next 3 years.
Yes.
With CJ Stroud.
This is their chance.
This is their window.
It will be fascinating. And a lot of football will be played between now and then. And they'll probably make the decision for themselves. But what do you pay? So we're seeing it with the Eagles now. They give Hurts the big contract. Look at them falling apart.
Aging contracts.
Right.
They're just an old team. And the Packers are on the complete opposite end.
Yep.
Totally very young. They just gave their quarterback an extension that now looks like a bargain.
I think we're just in this fascinating deal. And I've been saying this for a long time, that I think unless you have one of those top 6 or 7 guys, that I'm not saying you just release them or don't renew their contracts, but there's real value if you're a good scout. And I'm a huge proponent of offensive coordinators and systems, right? Like I've said this about Iowa football a million times. I don't think your line's that bad. I think your system's that bad. There's no way all those guys suck that much. But if the defense knows exactly what's coming, right? There's a reason why Mike Leach's teams always produce the number 1 passer in the country. He doesn't have the best quarterback in the country, but his scheme is so freaking good. And that's why I wonder, with the Vikings, I think O'Connell's really good.
I agree.
And he's got really good playmakers. Why would you give Kirk Cousins $35 million? That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, that's why you talk about there's only 7 guys.
And
that
he's not
maybe
one
can
of
win.
them.
He's not. I feel the same way about Dak Prescott. That contract is an albatross around the Cowboys. I don't think he has it. And so we saw this with the Bills for 17 years. We had 30 different quarterbacks. We drafted him. JP Lossman. Remember JP Lossman?
Remember JP. Yeah.
I'm trying to think some other guy from Florida State. We drafted number 17 overall. He was the guy right after Jameis Winston.
EJ Manuel.
EJ Manuel.
Yeah. Good pull. Intern.
I mean, and we had Trent Edwards. I mean, you got to have that top
Tyrod. Didn't you have Tyrod?
Tyrod Taylor took us to the
he's actually
playoffs.
He's a really respectable backup quarterback.
He's
give
a
me
great
that guy
leader.
In Minnesota, I'll take him.
He might still have the job in San Diego. They stabbed him in the heart, in the lung with a needle.
Give Tyrod $7 million. I'll take him. Let's go.
No, you don't want that. Tyrod, I believe I saw this for years. He will look at a guy that's wide open in the middle of the field and he just can't pull the trigger. He's not. He's a good backup you want to have in the locker room. That's all you want.
Locker
Chris.
room guy.
He's a locker room guy. And remember the crazy story? And
I'm just saying, if I can save $30 million against the cap, my defense is better, my line's better, I got better tight end.
Yeah, but you could probably go out and get let's see. Go get Baker Mayfield.
I would love that. Sign me up right now.
He's a free agent.
I would take Baker Mayfield right now. But what are you going to have to pay Baker?
I bet you could probably get him for 20 to 25.
If I can get him for 25, sign me up right now. I'll take it.
Because what's he getting? Like 7
Ship
from
off Cousins. See you, buddy. Thank you for all you've done. You're a really good guy. I think that you have a lovely family. I appreciate the fact that you're the man that you are. It was a good run. Go and play for Washington for a while.
What about Russell Wilson? You want him? No.
Not for what I'm going to have to pay him. No.
Well, you're going to get him they're going to cut him, and you're going to probably be able to pay him a couple $1 million. Because nobody's going to want him.
$2 million?
He probably won't pay for it. It's probably going to be
$2 million. I'd take Russell Wilson.
I don't know if you want that in the locker room, man.
He seems like a pain in the ass. Oh, I thought he was a good guy. Like, what happened to him?
Well, he's a nice guy. He's just cheesy.
Oh.
Like, he lacks self-awareness.
Cousins kind of did that during COVID, and then he kind of got called to the forefront, and then he turned into this great leader.
Yeah, and then he's blowing through the horn with the shirt off and the coins. Yeah, the fake. Can we just make that horn real so people actually have to make noise?
I would agree. The fake horn is a little bit.
It's a little. Yeah. It's
because it's really awkward because they're like, do I actually blow into it? Nobody does pregame like the Vikings, and then the game starts.
The pregame is great.
They do a good job.
Question for you: if you were ranking the 4 most heartbroken franchises in the NFL, it sounds like you go Vikings 1, or you think the Lions are worse than the Vikings?
Well,
you go Lions.
The Vikings and Bills, in my opinion, because you've had the taste. And the Lions are, you've kind of talked me into, it's like if you haven't even been there, then you don't know what you're missing type situation. Mm-hmm. But I feel so sorry for him because I admire him. I don't know if I would stay engaged if the Vikings were winning 4 games every year. I don't know if I'm that good of a fan. Now, I wouldn't go and be like, I'm going to be a Ravens fan. Like, I wouldn't do that. I'm a one-team man.
Yes, you are.
Right? But, like, I don't know if I could do what the Lions fans have done. But heartbroken is tortured and heartbroken. I almost think that you may have talked me into the Bills.
Thank you.
I think the Bills and the Vikings, whatever way you put it, are 1A and 1B.
The only other contenders really are the Lions, the Browns. That's it, right? That's the only.
The Browns lost their franchise.
I can't even put the Bears in the top. I don't think I can put them in the top 5.
No, I don't put the Bears in there.
Chris Hassel thinks they're the worst.
No,
that's
and the Browns are right there because again they lose their franchise, goes to Baltimore, and then they win a title.
Yeah,
that's
a real hard one.
That's brutal. And the Browns are a lot like Detroit, where these people don't have a lot more going on. You know, they did have the Cavs and LeBron, and they had those runs, which that was really great for those people.
But mostly that whole run was just chock full of disappointment.
I think the Vikings and the Bills are 1A and 1B, however you want to put it.
I'm definitely. I think the tiebreaker goes to the Bills having more torture for the reasons that I've laid out. But either way, man, why do we do this to ourselves? Honestly, I honestly want to know the answer to this because
we're sick, Scott.
We're rational human beings. This is a sports. I mean, it really isn't all that important, but it is one of the most important things to my happiness. Like I've felt. Listen, we're mental health guys. We have mental health problems.
Yeah, we suck.
I got the Lexapro going.
Oh yeah, big Lexapro guy.
Yeah.
How many milligrams you got, brother?
Just 20.
Oh yeah, 20.
You're 20?
Yeah. Right, there we go. These days I feel like I need 50, but
well, that's the thing is like
triple that. Let's go.
About 6-7 weeks ago, it was we're in the beginning of December in November whatever. I was feeling really down, and I didn't realize I was just really down. Like I felt sad. And I just couldn't get off the schneid. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, I started feeling so much better. Like confidence was back.
The Bills?
And then I've realized last night when I was laying in bed, I had the same feeling again. And I think it is connected to the Bills.
It's the Bills, yeah.
They went on that. They were 6-6, had 11% chance to make the playoffs. I thought for sure they were over. Yeah. And they were never even going to make the playoffs again. And then I was back. And then Josh Allen plays a great game. We do exactly what we need to. Couple people can't catch the ball. We have a bunch of injuries, and we miss another kick. Wide right?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, at home?
Against a broken Chiefs team.
When we...
The Chiefs have gone to... We got to end this show. It's getting way too depressing.
I honestly, like...
What
it's hard. It's just hard. I know, again, relative to everything, but...
It's 11:55. We can drink in 5 minutes.
Okay.
It'll be PM. We're going to open up this bottle of Steeple Ridge Bourbon.
Okay. I'm going to drop a few tears in there, and maybe that'll give me some extra power.
Thanks for coming in. I was a little hesitant to ask you, but I'm like, this could be therapeutic for everybody.
You know, I was hoping it was going to be cathartic. I honestly feel worse right now.
Oh. You probably should. Like,
I know.
It was really a meltdown.
Please, will you give me, I don't want optimism. I don't want pessimism. I just want realistically, Chris, from somebody who's not a Bills fan, tell me how you can see the Bills winning a Super Bowl, or if you think that they will.
I will tell you, it's because you have Josh Allen. You have an elite quarterback. You have a top 5 quarterback. You have that to hang your hat on.
But the Dolphins had Dan Marino.
Different era. Quarterbacks didn't mean near as much back then.
Chargers had Philip Rivers.
Same. I would make the same argument. In today's world, you've got to either have one of those guys, Burrow, Allen, Mahomes,
Herbert.
He's on the fringe, but he would be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe
CJ Stroud.
Maybe
Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar. And if you don't have one of those guys, then you need a Brock Purdy type where you're not paying him anything. You have one of those guys. Me, I've got a 36-year-old Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury, or we're going to have to get a guy with like the 20th pick in the draft.
This is the year to do it. Who do you honestly? No, not for the crowd. If I were to tell you by the time of 85, one of us has experienced the Super Bowl, who do you think it is?
It's you.
There's no way, man.
It's you.
I've watched Bills football for too long. I hope it. I want it so bad, but
it's you. Yeah.
How are we going to get past Mahomes?
Well, he's got to retire at some point.
He's 1 year older than Josh Allen. We're going to get one window of opportunity, 1 year window. And Josh Allen's going to be 40.
Mahomes hasn't really had a bad injury yet.
No, he had that kneecap that slid all the way down.
Some point he'll get hurt and it'll open your door.
And you know what will happen at that point? Josh Allen will probably get hurt that year too.
We've had 2 quarterbacks that I loved in my history with the Vikings, other than Randall Cunningham.
Dante Culpepper.
His knee got shredded so horribly that he could never play again. Okay, one of the worst injuries.
Like Teddy Bridgewater.
And guess what happened to him?
He got his knee shredded.
He almost died because of a knee injury. Scott, he almost died.
Is this where you want to take this conversation?
Corey Stringer?
No, to teams who have a player who almost dies, and you want to put that? That's what you want to do?
But that was all fake, right? I was told that was a hoax. Is that not true?
No, Damar Hamlin is going to win Comeback Player of the Year, and he should, because he was dead, and they brought him back to life. And so you can't bring that over me.
The last comment I'm going to make, and we're turning this thing off. Like, how wild is it that we were talking about the Caitlin Clark thing and how it's taken on this life of its own, and it's just exhausting. How crazy is it that Damar Hamlin became political? Like, could you imagine that? Like, 20 years ago, this guy almost dies on the field, and we're like...
And a heroic effort to save him.
Yeah, and like all these people, like, it's this great story that this guy's running around, and then there's like people actively trying to keep him from winning Comeback Player of the Year. It's insane. What are we doing?
It is, because people all can get their opinion out with social media. We haven't changed. We just have access. People like me and you who shouldn't be in front of a microphone are.
Here we are.
This is what we do. We're to blame as much as anybody.
Steeple Ridge Bourbon, baby. Go up and get yourself a bottle. Cheers, Scott.
Go Bills.
Skol Vikings. Until next time.
When we both have been eliminated. This is, honestly, from now on, every year, once the Bills and the Vikings have been eliminated, we do one of these.
Deal. This is tradition. You're just going to watch us age as we go on. Next time we need to do it later in the day and actually drink during the conversation. We did that years ago with that George Strait conversation, and we were hammered by the end of it. One of my favorite pods.
Maybe we can with legal Delta 8, Delta 9.
Oh,
we could also engage in some of that.
That's more your thing, and this is more mine.
Okay, well, we can do both.
Cross streams?
Yeah, cross streams.
All right. He's Scott Siepker. Appreciate him coming in today. Tortured Franchises, fun CW pod here, presented as always by our friends at Steeple Ridge on Iowa Everywhere.